Waalaikumsalam, Dr. Azida. Apa khabar?
Alhamdulillah. Apa khabar? Sihat ke?
Alhamdulillah. Bersiaran daripada Unit 10.
Oh, okey. Bersiaran daripada office baru ya.
Ya, ni office kat Unit 10 lah ni.
Oh, okey. Yang tu pakai virtual background ke background biasa?
Real one.
Real one. Okay. Alright. So that's blind dekat dalam office lah tu.
Ya,
Alright. Kiman? Kiman, are you here, Kiman?
nampak tadi.
Nampak ada kan?
Ada.
Okay, Kiman.
Hai.
Good morning, Kiman.
Morning, Dr. Azida. Morning, Prof.
Dr. Tazli. Dr. Tazli.
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi. Okay.
M.
Okay. Dr. Tazli sihat ke? Nampak je kurus sikit.
Ilusi optik kamera baru kot.
Okay, kita tunggu sekejap lagi. Tapi saya masuk sekejap je yang ni. Saya minta maaf banyak-banyak sebab hari ni saya ada Viva pukul 10 pagi. Jadi saya kena lari hari ni Viva face to face.
Oh,
Jadi saya kena lari ke tempat lain.
Sibuknya.
Nak buat macam mana? Tapi tak apa, nanti cuti 3 minggu MC. InsyaAllah start minggu depan. Jadi sempat nak rehat sekejap.
Ya, take a good rest lah. Ya.
InsyaAllah. Memang tak boleh tengok komputer, tak boleh tengok apalah for 3 weeks lebih kurang. So, time to rest. Okay.
Kami doakan nanti operation semua berjalan dengan lancar lah.
InsyaAllah. Amin. Alright. Nampak Prof. Farhan, Prof. Dato' Farhan. Tadi dia buka dia punya webcam. Tiba-tiba
Assalamualaikum. Apa khabar?
Waalaikumsalam.
Rindu. Kita rindu kat orang tu.
Kan. Alright, 9:30. So I think I can start the webinar, ya. Alright. Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning, everybody. First of all, I would like to thank our mantan Director CDAE, Prof. Abdul Karim alias. Alhamdulillah, today he is here with us. Alright, so we really appreciate his time and effort actually to be here with us today in USM. Alright, so we also have Dr. Mohamad Tazli Azizat, alright, from now nak cakap UC Brunei belum lagi kan, so from sekolah what sekolah, I can't remember the name, sekolah akademi, ya.
Sekolah Malaysia.
Sekolah Malaysia. Alright.
Malaysia.
Okay. Alright. And also we have Mr. Chua Kimat. Alright. I would say he is now in USM. Okay. He is our student in USM now, but he is a lecturer in Unimas. Okay, Sarawak. Okay. Alright. So let me just I don't think we need to share Prof. Karim's bio. Everybody know him, all right? And you know we have been missing Prof. Karim here in USM. Okay, so baliklah Prof. Contohnya lah. Okay, dia punya perkataan tu, Prof, we miss you so much, all right? So I would like to introduce Dr. Tazli. Alright, okay. Dr. Tazli is currently a founder of Scholar Malaysia, and he is very passionate in delivering trainings and facilitation related to teaching and learning. Alright, so he was a former associate professor at University Malaysia Perlis, okay, and also in University Technology Petronas. Okay, so I have known him since UTP. Okay, back when he was the director in CITAL. All right. So, and then, so I think he is going to go to Brunei. Okay. In around end of the year, maybe earlier or middle of 2023. Yeah. Okay. So we wish you good luck. Okay. And then I would like to introduce Mr. Chua Kimat. All right, Mr. Chua Kimat. He is a senior lecturer at the Faculty of language and communication, majoring in educational technology, computational linguistic, learning science, and instructional design. Okay, he has won several awards at national and international level for various innovations in teaching and learning, as well as assistive technology. So welcome, Kiman. Okay, I'm waiting you to come back to USM actually. Okay, missing you already in USM. Okay.
Will do.
All right. So later on we can do another training face to face. Okay. All right. So for today, Prof. Karim will be moderating. Okay. Our webinar titled ChatGPT, a threat or an opportunity for education. All right. So this ChatGPT has been a very hot issue. Okay, also in USM, okay, it has been a very hot issues that academics have been considering whether to use ChatGPT or to actually introduce it to our students, because some of our lecturers, they think that it is not good to share ChatGPT with our students, okay, because they are concerned with the plagiarism, okay, and so on. So today I hope that everybody here will be able to actually look at whether ChatGPT is a threat or it is an opportunity. So with that, I would pass to Prof. Karim for the floor is yours.
Terima kasih Dr. Azidah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan selamat sejahtera kepada semua sahabat-sahabat di USM yang saya rindui, yang saya kasihi, and all the participants, the listeners. Welcome to this webinar. And the topic that we are going to discuss this morning is very, very interesting. ChatGPT, a threat or an opportunity. So I believe this is a timely topic that everyone is looking forward to hear, to discuss. So please get ready with your question. You can start posting the questions in the chat, and hopefully we can address some, if not all, the questions. So before we start with the speakers, Dr. Mohamad Azizan and Mr. Chua Kiman, thank you very much to my friend, to my colleagues and friends for your willingness to join our webinar this morning. Because the ChatGPT is a new buzzword. Well, as we know, the world of education in the past few years was already facing disruption. But the pandemic brought this to the forefront and in fact accelerated it. And now there's the next big thing, I call it AI. AI, artificial intelligence technology, is creating yet another wave of change. So today, this morning, in this session, we are here to explore one of the latest innovation in artificial intelligence, which is ChatGPT, based on the GPT-3. It's been around actually. It's been in the development for the past few years, and now ChatGPT is here for us. And for those who have not explored ChatGPT, maybe you would like to try after this webinar. So ChatGPT is the new buzzword, new kids on the block, so to speak. That's really shaking things up. And ChatGPT has been hailed as a game changer, a technology that has the potential to revolutionize the way we live, the way we work, the way we learn. But of course, as usual, with change comes both the opportunity, the challenge, and maybe the threats to some people. That's what we are here this morning to discuss about it, to find out more about ChatGPT. So for this webinar, I've invited my colleagues, my dear colleagues, Dr. Mohamad Azizan and Mr. Chua Kiman. So thank you to Dr. Azidah for introducing them. But before we start with the speakers, let me just say a little bit more about ChatGPT. I'll be moderating the session, so I'm not one of the main speakers. I'll just moderating and hopefully can also add in a little bit about ChatGPT, my own view on ChatGPT, because I've been using this since it was introduced. So in this session, hopefully we will dive into the nitty-gritty of ChatGPT and its impact, especially on education. We will examine its potential to transform the way we teach and learn, and whether it represents really a threat to traditional methods of education. We will also explore the ethical considerations surrounding the use of AI technology and what the future may hold for ChatGPT and its role in shaping our world, our education, our economy, and all the different facets of our lives. So, ladies and gentlemen, my dear colleagues, grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and get ready for an interesting discussion on the next big thing in AI technology. And as I mentioned just now, please feel free to post your question on the YouTube chat, on also in the WebEx, and we will hopefully pick up some of the questions, and we will try to address some of them. Okay, now before I invite Mr. Kiman and also Dr. Tazli, I would like to share a few quotes to start the ball rolling, because I love quotes. And these are the few quotes that from the eminent educator, Professor Sugana Mitra. If you have been following higher education, especially trends in education, I believe you know who is Professor Sugana Mitra. Okay, let me share the screen. So I have three or four quotes that actually very relevant with the topic of our discussion today. Okay, this Professor Sugana Mitra. The first quote here, he said this: "It took nature 100 million years to make the ape stand up and become Homo sapiens. On the other hand, it took us only 10,000, I believe 10,000 years, to make knowing obsolete." Knowing obsoletes. Okay, that's the first quote. Second one, you don't actually need to know anything. You can find out at the point when you need to know it. It's the teacher's job to point young minds towards the right kind of questions. The teacher doesn't need to give any answers, because answers are everywhere. So take a moment to digest this. Answers are everywhere. It's a matter now more on how do we craft, educate, train our young minds to ask critical questions. I guess this is one of the points that our speakers probably will highlight on ChatGPT. Okay, and the third one here, learning is the new skill. Imagination, creation, and asking new questions are at its core. Again, take note here: imagination, creation, and asking new questions are at its core. At the core of learning, the core of education. That's according to Professor Sugana Mitra. And final one, he said, it's quite fashionable to say that education systems is broken. Yeah, I think there's a lot of conversation, discussion, debate about our education system. And this is not only in Malaysia. So this, a lot of people say our education system is this and that, a lot of issues. The system is broken. But according to Professor Sugana Mitra, it is not broken. It's wonderfully constructed. The education is actually wonderfully constructed. It's just that we don't need it anymore. It's outdated. Okay, so I'd like to thank Kiman, Mr. Chua Kiman, for pointing out these quotes. Actually, the first quote just now, and I thought, wow, this is good. So I asked his permission to use as my introduction. Then later on, I discovered other quotes by Sugana Mitra that when I went through some of the quotes, you can Google actually quotes by Sugana Mitra. There's a lot of good quotes from him. Yeah. And these are some of the few ones that I chose here actually are very much relevant to the topics of our discussion today about ChatGPT. So ladies and gentlemen, ChatGPT has basically took us by surprise. Actually, pandemic took us by surprise in the last 2 years. Everyone was not ready. Everyone has to embark on a new journey. And after 2 years, we thought, okay, now we are good, we are okay, we are settled down. Boom. Now another thing, another tsunami, another surprise for us, ChatGPT, and then everyone now is discussing about, whoa, how can this, uh, I mean, how this ChatGPT would transform the world of education. Then we are start to have a lot of concern about plagiarism and so on. Look at this graph. This really shows how this ChatGPT has taken the world by storm. How long it took top apps to hit 100 million monthly users. You can see here Google Translate, Uber, Telegram, Spotify, Instagram took 30 months to reach 100 million users. TikTok. Hey, everyone is on TikTok now. Okay. Took 9 months to hit 100 million, and ChatGPT took only 2 months to hit 100 million users as of January. That's basically to give you some perspective of how powerful is ChatGPT in basically capturing the attention of people all over the world. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think basically that's from me, just to set the scene about ChatGPT. So we have two speakers here, Dr. Mohamad Tazli Azizan and also Mr. Chua Kiman. And we will start off the session with Dr. Tazli. He will share with us on his thoughts on ChatGPT and maybe share with us some of the use cases for education perhaps. And later on, Mr. Chua Kiman. So Dr. Tazli will speak about 30 minutes. Then we followed by Mr. Chua Kiman. Mr. Chua will actually focus more. It's like a case study, so to speak, more on the application of ChatGPT with respect to language teaching. So I think that's very good to see in a specific area or specific subject matter how ChatGPT can be adapted rather than be afraid of ChatGPT. But to me, how do we leverage? The key word here is leverage the power of ChatGPT. So, Dr. Tazli, can I pass over the session to you
Okay,
for the first part?
no problem.
Silakan, Dr. Tazli.
Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and very good morning. First of all, I think I would say thank you uh, to CDAE, USM for inviting me together with Prof. Karim and Mr. Chua Kiman here to share about our experience, I think, about using ChatGPT and our thoughts about it, and what makes a difference right now between previously we don't have something like this and suddenly ChatGPT came by storm, and by 2 months like 100 million users use it already. So let me share a little bit about my experience. I was actually, as being introduced by Dr. Azida, I was the director for Center for Teaching and Learning. And I was the one who always advocate for student-centered approach back in UTP, and I keep doing that even until now. So right now with Scholar Malaysia, we actually provided teaching and training and consultancy services, mostly for the educators, just to make sure that the educators could adopt and adapt well with the 21st century teaching. So when the chat GPT came in, I was very excited because I feel that this is it. This is like a push, another push. Okay, I would say the first push came during the COVID-19, when we were struck with the pandemic, and the teachers had to and the educators had to resort to online learning. Before this, we have, no one, I mean, I would say that um not many of us care about conducting session online and so on, and suddenly pandemic came in and we have to do it, we are forced to do it. And then we were talking about 21st century learning. I think it has been since like the past decade. I think Prof Karim has been doing that since like forever before this. And but I think maybe the adoption, people still feel that it is quite difficult, we don't have that much training and so on. And not many are actually taking it slowly. I mean, they are doing it slowly. But when ChatGPT came in, it's sort of coming like another force to just make sure that we as the educators, we transform the way how we did our practice in teaching and learning. We do our practice in teaching and learning. So maybe before I share the screen to share a little bit about my ChatGPT screen, can I just ask every one of you here, if let's say any one of you here had never tried ChatGPT, ataupun I would say, how many of you have tried ChatGPT? Can you please raise up your hand? Just use use the emoji there. Uh, can I see hands or thumbs up? Okay, all right. Okay, that's good. So everybody, we are just part of 100 million users lah. Baru nak try. Ada yang cakap baru nak try. Ada yang tak pernah try langsung tak? Anybody who had never tried before? If haven't tried yet, so I just want to share the link. Okay, this is the link so that you can go there and sign up for free. I think you just need to insert your phone number, um, and um, and then after that you can use Google, sign up with Google, and okay. So after that, what will happen is, let me share the screen. Okay, so right now, if let's say you have signed up for ChatGPT, you'll be given this kind of window. You will have been introduced. You will get to see this window, and all your conversation with ChatGPT in the past will be pocketed here. So it's like every time you start new conversation with ChatGPT, so you'll start all over again. So just now I was asking about Prof. Sugata. The name is Sugata Mitra, not Sugana. So I was just Google here, Prof. Sugana. He couldn't find anyone. So Sugata Mitra. So there are few actually quotes that he had shared. So yeah, this is something. And then I asked him about his view on education system. So in few seconds, they just pop out and inform us about this. So this is like a new Google. That's why Google now is coming out with another new similar kind of technology, because they feel that this is another threat for them. This is a threat for them because people rarely now use Google. They just come here and try to find some information. They just wanted to ask something. They just come here. But this is not only the purpose of ChatGPT. Okay, so as a teacher, for example, as an educator, as a lecturer, I think the most challenging part for us when we want to start with 21st century learning is about making a lesson plan. It's about making a lesson plan. This is something that is very challenging because sometimes, right, I want to do some kind of activity with my students, but I'm not so sure about that. So what kind of activities that I could create? So this is where actually ChatGPT could help. So let's go and ask ChatGPT. Perhaps Prof. Karim, you maybe want to share some topic, some subject, if you don't mind. Sound
Well,
good to you? I already left chemical engineering for quite some time already, so I need to record
well,
that.
maybe about food security.
Okay, let's
I
ask
think
about security.
there's already a concern on food security now.
Okay, so let us
Telur pun
ask.
tak ada dah. Telur pun dah habis on dalam pasaran.
I would say just now I'm going to type here. I'll outline a lesson plan about food security. And then what will be the objective? To create awareness about food security. This would be for 90 minutes. So once you type, so they'll be able to generate the lesson plan for you, understanding food security, 90 minutes. Straight away, they give the objectives. What will be the objective? They straight away they lay out with what will be the materials needed, and then what will be the introduction, and then give for 10 minutes, and then after that, section 1, understanding food security for 30 minutes, and it goes on and on. Like another one, factors affecting food security. To the extent that it gives what kind of activity that you could do. For example, here they highlighted about have a group discussion to encourage students to share their opinions and thoughts on the factors affecting food security. Improving food security, encourage students to share their ideas with the class, for example, conclusion and so on. So it gives an extensive ideas to us. For example, if let's say we don't have anything, before this we just conduct session like a chalk and talk session, but right now it should provide a clear idea to us, at least some clear idea to us, what could we do in our class for the next 90 minutes. So this is one of the things that we could do. Okay, other than that, so we have this plan. All right, so if let's say we are not sure about, for example, like we just want to have a different kind of plan, you just type in, could you please give, could you give alternative, for example. So now they are actually generating different kind of lesson plan, so that we can actually make some kind of comparison here. So what I could say here is that instead of just asking and picking up straight away, maybe this is the time that we also use a higher level, higher order thinking skills among us. Start to make a comparison between, okay, which lesson plan is better, which one I could do, which one is suitable with my classes, for example. So for example, if let's say we just have okay, you just need to highlight that I have big class, about 500 students. So what are the activities suitable for this session? So I will just stop generating here, and then I'll just ask this question. So you can go on and actually you start to see that there are something that start to be given there, group discussions, and then jigsaw activity. I think jigsaw activity for 500 students is not that practical. But again, this is where actually you cannot just simply straight away okay, I'm going to accept your ideas. This is just a partner. ChatGPT become our partner so that we can have a communication with them, so that we can have some ideas. For example, here, food security scavenger hunt, poster competition. This is something interesting that we may actually need like 2 weeks or 3 weeks to think about this. But now ChatGPT is helping us, have some idea. Okay, next week I'm going to teach food security, and then we're going to do scavenger hunt, for example. And then we just need to make preparation. That's it. So that's why I would say that ChatGPT is a very interesting tool that we can just use just to make sure that we can have a better and enriching activities in our class. That's number one. Number two is actually,
Dr.
yeah,
Azli, let's say if we want to prepare this lesson plan for, let's say, standard 5 students, I think you can do that easily, right?
yeah, betul. That's much easier. For example, like
Different
I was
level,
I
different,
was
yeah.
given opportunity before this to teach to give study skills to secondary school students. So
Mm.
I have some ideas about it, but of course, the better one is just to refer ChatGPT just to cross check whatever that I know. And then there are things, for example, like, okay, I need this and I need this, so I just ask ChatGPT to include together. For example, like quadrant method of Stephen R. Covey. I want to teach the student together, so they put that together as part of the lesson plan. So we have this lesson plan. And I think always the problem with us, the educators, is about the assessment. The assessment. So what we could do with the assessment. So for example, if let's say you want to create using Kahoot towards the end or using Mentimeter in the class, um, just say, okay, please generate 10 MCQ questions relating to food security,
Hmm.
level understanding. You know.
Senang hidup ni.
So they give the question straight away. Um, so and then you can just actually, okay, for example, which question that makes sense to you, which question that you feel you feel that, okay, this is not relevant or something that you don't want to use it, for example. So you can just
Is
leave it
it
out.
generating? Is it generating response? I don't see.
The generating what, Prof? Oh, okay, turn off virtual background. Yeah. Okay. Can you see right now? Okay. So okay, of course, here they give the question, and but now you can just say, please share the answer. I should actually just put MCQ question with answers, for example, so they can just give the answer straight away in the question. Please share the answers of the above. So they straight away give the answer. This is something that um, that we could do as part of doing this MCQ. Okay, Prof. Karim. Okay, I'll just continue. So the next thing that also what you could do on top of this is actually sometimes you may want to have some kind of assessment to the students. So you may want to ask, for example, like, is there any oh sorry, maybe you can just ask that, create some possible assignments for the students to be done outside the class. Okay, on food security, but um, they and and they can use, for example, Chat GPT as referral, for example. So it started to give you some possible assignments that you can give to the students. For example, like research project here, and then they give ideas, for example, what Chat GPT could help, opinion piece, and so on and so on. So they started to give that. So if let's say we are interested in, sorry, if let's say we are interested in, okay, I would like to conduct activity number 2, assignment number 2 on opinion piece here. Okay, on opinion piece. So yeah, this is generating. If let's say you are not interested with these assignments, you can always ask them to generate more and more. So they will give you more ideas about what kind of assignments that you want to give to the students. And then if let's say you want to give a opinion, okay, I would like to give opinion piece. Please activate assignment. Uh, what else that you could do after you give the assignment to the student? You want to have some kind of rubric, right? So you want to have some kind of help with the rubric. So I would like to give opinion piece assignment. Please share suitable rubric on this. So this is where actually they start to give rubric. Okay. So for example, like some ideas about how we can create rubric here. Possible rubric for evaluating student opinion pieces on food security. And we can go on and on again. And then, for example, like, can you can you create a table for this rubric? Okay, dia dah bagi markah 100% kat situ. Now we want to create a table for this rubric. So now they are actually preparing you as, I think, but not the rubric that you want, for example, because it's just a table. Create the rubric in detail, for example, with criteria and descriptions, perhaps. Something like that. I mean, but then this can be go on and go on, more and more to the detail. So they started to give 20 points, 15 points, and so on. So this is another approach that we can use for our teaching and learning. I really love it so much. So this is one of the use case of how we can actually use ChatGPT that could help us to deliver the best for our class. Even the activities that we conducted in the class. This is like another teaching assistant. I would say a teaching assistant for us. So it's really helpful. For me, I found that ChatGPT is like another wise friend that I could have a conversation with, another expert that I could actually talk and get some ideas and have a discussion on this. So this is what I've been doing since ChatGPT has been introduced. That's number one. Another thing, if let's say some of you are actually looking at, for example, like you have some ideas, okay? You have actually a lot of, for example, like data. I've tried that as well. Lots of qualitative data that you have collected, and then you just want to get some ideas about um, what would be the actually the what would be the theme of that data. You're making a thematic kind of analysis that could also be done with ChatGPT. Just put in all the data and then ask ChatGPT, for example, like what is actually could be, for example, like what will be the theme of this data, for example. That could be done. You may want to try that. Another thing that I did also with ChatGPT is more or less with copywriting and marketing and branding, because I've been running the company for the past 1 year. So I think it helps a lot for me. For example, like sometimes I created carousels using Canva. So instead of like I have to think about, so what will be the content of today, so I just ask them about specific key points, for example, and then they just give some ideas. So for example, like today I'm thinking of, for example, I write here, please share with me some carousel ideas. I'm thinking of reflective skills. So yes, they give ideas about reflection. And then, okay, I'm just asking about what to do with reflection among the students. So here are some ways to facilitate reflection. They give some ideas, and then I say, okay, I think I would use this content. This good, and then suggest me suitable title, suggest me suitable hooks that I could actually pick it up, and then I just go on and finally it's much easier for me to create some content so that I could share with others. So that is actually some of the things that I've been using ChatGPT so far, other than just asking question to them, making ChatGPT to do something for me. That could also be done. I have tried before actually. Created at the first time using ChatGPT is let me look at my previous content. I think I have asked ChatGPT to create duty roster. Where is it? Here, duty roster. So I said, yeah, create a duty roster for Amin, Ali, Abu, Rita, so on. And then, just create a duty roster, they just go randomly. But after that, you say to them that create a duty roster for Amin, Ali, Abu, Rita, Judy, Alice, blah, blah, blah. For specific tasks, sweeping, remove trash, cleaning windows, and arrange tables. Let only the boys remove the trash. Amin, Ali, Abu, Asir, and Arman are boys. Rina has physical disability, a limited movement. Earl is always come late. Something like that. So I give some kind of condition to them, some constraint. So they make it another one. So they just try to arrange in a way that, okay, with that constraint, they try to rearrange that duty roster. And then again, I said that Saturday and Sunday off. So making again a new one. And after that, just put in the table format. So I have this table format. I think for teachers it helps a lot actually, rather than thinking of putting who and who inside the table. For example, they want to create something, but now it's just happened to be here. So yeah, that's all I would like to share, Prof. Maybe Mr. Chua have a lot more to share after this. But yeah.
Okay.
Those are the things I
Okay.
like to share.
That's great. I think Dr. Tazli has demonstrated the different ways of using ChatGPT. We have yet to address the topic whether, well, at least on the part of opportunities there, how educators, teachers, lecturers can really take advantage the power of ChatGPT to create lesson plan in no time, and it can do a lot more, a lot more. But of course, this session we are not going to explore everything, but just to give you the taste of what GPT can do, and those are some of the opportunities you have seen. We'll be talking about the issues, concern, and so on uh, after Kiman's Mr. Chua Kiman's presentation. So now maybe I can pass over to Kiman to share how ChatGPT can be used in the context of language teaching. Betul Kiman? And for those who come from language background, this is probably a very good opportunity. So thank you so much, Dr. Tazli. I think there will be a lot more that we can talk about shortly after Kiman's presentation. Okay, go ahead, Kiman.
Thank you so much, Prof. I mean, I have to kind of like, I thought masa Prof Kari invite ni, I thought he will be one of the speakers. Tengok-tengok dia jadi moderator pula. Because
Nah,
I kind of agree because I thought he will be the main speaker juga together with Dr. Tazli. Anyhow, I'll share my view on this, but I will be focusing more on language arts. Basically, this language art area is the most threatening one lah in education because of the it's language based. So I'll be sharing on this. Let me share my slide. Because Dr. Tazli dia dah tunjuk the actual view of that ChatGPT. I'll be doing some screenshot lah because I don't want to repeat the things that Dr. Tazli has mentioned, which is already quite extensive. But I always like to give a background on this because anything that we use, any tools, any application, is always good to know why it's happening now. Why do they have to launch ChatGPT in the first place? Why of all time it has to be launched last year? Why not this year? Why not last year? Why not 2 years later? Why now? Right? Why now? Now ChatGPT and its reliance on textual data. It's like this. I think those in the field, I don't want to sound nerdy, but those in the field will know that ChatGPT is powered by OpenAI GPT-3. And those of you who do not know OpenAI, it's actually not for profit organization co-founded by Sam Altman and also Elon Musk. He was the mind behind OpenAI because he thought that for AI to flourish, you need a research lab which is not tied to any corporate responsibilities. Like Google has to report to all these corporate people up there, all these bureaucratic issues and all that. So they thought by having OpenAI, the AI development will be faster. True enough, because when OpenAI was launched, you have GPT-1, you have 2. Since like for the past 5 to 6 years, they have been doing so much, not only in terms of GPT, but also in other models like Kodak, which is the code you can if you actually code, we using all this model that they have. But the one that is catching our eyes now is of course ChatGPT because of its availability, right? Now, for those of you who also ask, apa tu GPT? Because I get this all the time. Kenapa mesti GPT? Because during the pandemic, everyone was talking about NFT, non-fungible, fungible token, because of the FFT and Bitcoin and all that, right? Now we have a GPT, generative pre-trained transformer. I think you can get from the name itself. Generative means it generates things from pre-trained data. Pre-trained data, it sounds so like, we train one-to-one, but actually they train themselves, but it's pre-trained. And then it has a transformer. Now, the technology behind GPT comes from Google, not originally from OpenAI. In fact, Stanford and Google AI team research lab were one of the people who keep on sharing about all this transformer technology and all that, including artificial neural network and all that. But what I'm telling you here is, at the moment, GPT-3 is generating 170 billion parameters. Yang macam Dr. Tadi tunjuk tadi, whatever Dr. Tadi has shown you, are one of those parameters where you can just generate. And the beauty of this GPT is it can actually formulate new parameters as you use it. The more you use it, the better it is, because it will figure out the possibilities. And the upcoming one, GPT-4, will more or less, I don't know, 5 times more. So you can imagine how fast it will be later on. And even then, we are still calling this artificial general intelligence. Still general, because it still cannot beat our human brain, which we have 100 trillion neural connection. I mean, our brain capacity is 100 trillion neural connection. But artificial intelligence is heading there in the next few years. You trust me, because they can just replicate itself very fast. So just to give you an overall picture, because everyone is talking about, oh, Google is going to die. No, Google is not going to die. Google is just waiting for the right time. You can see all the blue circles here. All the blue circles here are owned by Google. These are all large language models owned by Google, but they are not open. You can see the one with the closed one. The one yang ada outline tu are closed. These are all big language model waiting for the right time to be released. The one that we're talking about is GPT-3, which is still small, as you see. The largest one is owned by NVIDIA, one of the biggest company. In fact, it is the largest company producing graphic processor and all that, right? It's called Megatron Turing Natural Language Generation. Now, if you look at Google's ownership, it's just about time, right? And then you heard about BART. BART is actually a small one here, BERT, based on BERT, but it's called BART. Then they have Lambda, which is the promising one that they launched a few years ago, but it didn't took off because of some issue. Now, the thing is, I answer this a lot. And people ask me, why OpenAI launch it and why not Google? They have corporate responsibility to uphold to, like I said, because they cannot just launch a product and then hoping that it will get backlash from in terms of ethical issues, in terms of all this issue that they are facing. They have to answer to the investors as well. How are we going to make money? You look at OpenAI and GPT, they are not earning anything yet. They are trying to earn money now by offering ChatGPT Plus, but they don't have to answer to investors yet because they behave like a research lab. In fact, if you go to OpenAI, any platform, anything they put, they will see this is a free research preview. They never claim it's a product. It's a free research preview. So we have to be careful of this. We are just part of the experiment, and we don't have to keep on harping on, okay, Google is going to die, Microsoft is going to die. No, they are just waiting for the right time to enter the, this, well, people call it AI war, but I don't like that word. It's benefiting us in many sense. But today I'll be talking about some of the threats as well. So ChatGPT is just a teaser of what's to come. That's all. Because all this while, ChatGPT has been around for so many years. I was the luckier one to be involved because I was in OpenAI community for quite some time. I was using it for my app. When I was developing an app for blind students, visually impaired students, one of the technology I used was the how to change taken image into text, soft text. That time belum ada lagi yang all this Google Lens at that time. So I was using one of their the codecs, right? One of the things that they were introducing, including GPT-1 was a very lousy one because you just ask something and then it will answer. Now we are in GPT-3, which is based on a very large corpus or language model, a large language model, like they call it DaVinci 003. Now, if you do not want to use ChatGPT, you can actually go to this link, platform.openai.com/playground. You can try all these things, including grammar checker, including paraphraser and all that. A lot of software actually uses for many years already. Now, one reason why OpenAI decided to make it a chat, again, like I said, this is just like a try to poke fun on other big giant because, well, why don't we create our own chat system where you can do whatever you want, make it open for free. Just you can come in and try all this. So ChatGPT basically cover all this, whatever parameters that they have, but in a chat format. I think that makes it appealing. One, because it's chat based. You love to chat. We love to chat because of WhatsApp and that we love to chat. They turn it into a chat mode. Another one is humans, as far as I know, hates writing. We hate writing so much up to the extent that if somebody can help us write, we would pay for them, right? Just that now you don't have to pay, you have ChatGPT to do it. So what's the issue now? If you can pay someone to proofread your essay, if you can pay someone to actually proofread your thesis, why don't you trust ChatGPT to do the same without even paying? For example, I mean, if you're talking about this kind of ethical issue when it comes to, I mean, I've seen a lot of even senior professors paying someone to write a paper based on the data they have. But now we are questioning ChatGPT for doing the same thing. Maybe, right? Maybe. I mean, this is just some question that I want to highlight for all of you to think. Now, so before ChatGPT, you have GPT-3 engine, the same engine which is being used by ChatGPT, but used in Quillbot. Somebody mentioned Quillbot. Quillbot has been using GPT-3 for quite some time. In fact, you can also do paraphrasing in ChatGPT itself. So you can just type the question, you can say, can you paraphrase this? It will paraphrase it for you. If you want to find references, GPT can do the same. You have Grammarly, checking your grammar for so many years already. They are also powered by GPT engine. Jasper and CopyAI, copywriting tools. This is the disruptor because before this, you would pay someone to do a copywriting, like what Dr. Tazli mentioned. You will pay someone to write the copywriting element. Now you don't have to because Jasper and CopyAI can do it for you. My students from linguistic background, a lot of them end up being ghostwriters before this. You know what's ghostwriter, right? Ghostwriter means you write on other people's behalf, but your names are not there. A lot of articles on the media now, you look at all these big media agencies, they don't really ask the reporter to write. They pay ghostwriter to write, but their names are not there. So somebody else is writing the article, but you put your name there. These are called ghostwriters. Now, a lot of my students complain because now they lose a lot of jobs because, you know, things like Jasper, CopyAI, or even ChatGPT can do it now. So they can't earn from ghostwriting now. In fact, they are figuring out how else that they can do to make sure that maybe slightly more creative, or I don't know. But somehow along the way they are losing the freelancing job that they're getting all from time to time. Even proofreading are getting way lesser now, right? Okay, so just a quick one. It's not revolutionary because it's been around for quite some time. But the unique thing about it is, like I said, it's open, free, and generic. The keyword here is actually generic. It's open-ended. You can do whatever you want there. There's no restriction. What happened before this was they specialize in paraphrasing, called Quillbot. You know, when you specialize it narrowly down, it's going to be a bit more narrow, right? But when it's generic, you can do whatever you want. It becomes so amazing. It's like you have a all-knowing friend. Like what Dr. Tazi mentioned, it's like you have an all-knowing partner yang somehow knows everything and somehow know whatever, you know, like all-knowing being lah, kan? So that is the key now. But I don't know how long it will be free lah. I think we see that dia dah ada plus ni, kejap lagi ada Pro Max, tak tahulah. You know, they will have different level because they need to make money. They are pumping so much money and they are losing a lot of money anyway as a research lab, right? So I would like to focus more on the language education because a lot of language educators are, takut lah sebab it's language, right, to begin with. It's very based on language. And like I said, we hate writing so much. We would rather somebody else to write for us. Now that we have ChatGPT, this is some of the issue. Reading. I noticed this for quite some years now, even before ChatGPT existed. I think a lot of research has been showing the same trend. The younger generation now, they don't really have deep reading. They read, but they read superficially. They get headlines, they read headlines. That's why all this micro learning things become a trend, because even TikTok becomes a trend because everything becomes very condensed, very, very surface level. Deep reading has become, very limited in a way. Like you rarely find a student that actually reads a lot of book and can actually tell you about that book extensively. Most of them will just tell you the synopsis, which is something that they can see at the back of the book, something like that. But you can see how ChatGPT makes it even more simpler. You can say, can you help me summarize this article? You give the link, and then it will summarize it for you. If you need an APA style for it, you can say, can that be in APA style? Then it will generate the APA style for you. Last time when they copied it from the website, they have to think, okay, how do I put this in citation? Now ChatGPT can do the same as well. So this is something which is you have to be very careful of. I don't know how to solve this because it's not just a ChatGPT issue. This is basically issue with our technological advancement, not just in terms of ChatGPT, the reading materials that we have now. Look at the blogs, look at the news report now are getting shorter and shorter. Even medium.com now, 2 minutes, 3 minutes read. Anything beyond 10 minutes, you don't want to read anymore, because of the kind of things that we are doing now. Then another threat would be radical shift from writing to generating. A lot of language educators are saying, what happened to writing? Ask those kids, I mean, if you have kids or even children or anyone you know who entered kindergarten 2 years ago during the pandemic, because they don't have a chance to practice holding a pen. Most of the time was spent online. They were using most of the gadgets, either smartphone or even laptops or tablet. They were punching the words more than they hold a pen, right? Ask those generation, if you ask them, they will probably say, what's the point of writing when I can type everything just by using my voice? I didn't realize this until one kid actually told me this, because I was doing a bit of just a chit chat with the kids. This is like 5 or 6 year old. I told them, no, no, why don't you write something? Why do I have to write? I can just say it to this smartphone. The smartphone will type for me. So they don't even learn spelling. They don't even know how to spell using their hand, but they know the word is correct, something like that. So eventually writing skill is getting even, being replaced by generating. Like I put here, knowing just enough to generate. All you need to do is you learn all this basic command, like produce 3 sentences with the word ubiquitous. Can you help me? And then it will generate the sentence for you. So then they just copy, or maybe just copy and paste into the Google Classroom and then submit, right? These are the kind of the thread. And you see, I sengaja start with thread ni sebab I know kita jangan terlalu dreamy about this one. Kita tengok thread dulu, alright? We focus on the thread first. And next one will be this one. I think this one is the critical one. Gratification of artificial creativity. Everyone is showing off their creativity now. You don't need to be creative to be creative these days. Anyone can be a poet, anyone can be a story writer, anyone can be an artist, anyone can be a graphic designer, anyone can be a UI designer, anyone can be a UX designer these days because of this technology. Like now, I write a simple one. Write a story about a man living in Sarawak trying to survive in a post-pandemic world after being laid off. You can see it, this is actually the story very long, tapi I cut off. But you can see even a story like this can be personalized according to more prompts. The more detail you give, the better it is, and it will kind of like generate the story. And it's your job to, of course, if you want to improve this, then you can edit here and there to make it more realistic or more authentic in your context, right? Even poem like this, I asked, write a poem about the hope with AI. Kalau you baca this poem, rasa very hopeful. Tengok dia punya ayat. To a further bright and free of strife, where all can live a life of joy and light. Cik, dia punya language tu bunga-bunga. Kalau you copy paste, you buat buku pun orang tak tahu you guna ChatGPT. That is people are fearing in the language arts punya. In fact, those in arts yang graphic design, they are also suffering because of this one. Because anything you have from ChatGPT, you can feed it into other tools like Midjourney, DALL-E, just to generate a picture like this. I generated this morning. I just gave a prompt based on the ChatGPT punya. This is a story generated by ChatGPT, Scamper the Squirrel, the Forest Adventure. Alright, so you can actually imagine already. You kalau nak buat buku ni, you can dah ada siri 1, siri 2 dah. Scamper the Squirrel, benda lain. And you can see, you can, yeah.
Just to interject of
Yeah.
that, yeah. I've seen a few people already publish
Yep.
children book
Yep.
using this tool.
Yep. If you go to Discord, right, it's scary. I mean, kalau I can show sekejap, I don't know whether you can see this. If you go to Discord, if you go to Midjourney lah especially, DALL-E tu tak berapa canggih lagi. The most canggih one, the most sophisticated one to me now is the Midjourney punya system. I mean the language model is slightly more advanced, because DALL-E and Stable Diffusion, they are using more or less the same engine by OpenAI. But if you go to Midjourney yang ni, sebab dia run on Discord, you can see they generate so many kind of arts, right? And if you go to different ni, you can just do one now. Maybe I can do one. I can just demonstrate you how. You just have to do /imagine. Then I can write a children, or maybe an illustration for a children's book in a village with a girl smiling. And you don't even have to be grammatically correct. That's the wonderful thing about this. You tak perlu grammatical correct pun. Just bagi je lah all the keywords, alright? and then it will start to generate. It will take some time, but about 1 to 2 minutes, depending on how heavy is the server. But you can see people are already generating so many arts here, and these are all unique. You will never get the same one twice because it's always combination of so many parameters. So you will never get the same one twice. That is the that is the thing about it. And kalau yang baru familiar, U here stand for upscale. You nak besarkan U1, ini U1, U2, U3, U4. So it's like upscale, mean besarkan gambar. Kalau V, you like this one, tapi you want to see more variation of the same thing. So dia variation. Same concept was used in all this avatar AI punya tool dalam app tu kan. You see people using Dawn AI and all this, the same engine, right? The one that I generated just now, mana dah? Sekejap. Yeah, I scroll down sikit. Yeah, I'm trying to find. This one. Nampak? Cantik ni. This is mine. Less than 2 minutes, I get this. Of course, you nampak macam dia tunjuk maybe tak berapa relevant to your context. Then you can improve. You can use the same prompt again. And then can say in a Malay village, for example. Then lagi lah specific dia jadi. Right? But let's say I like this one. I like this number 4. Then I can just put up U4, upscale the 4. It will generate a bigger version, the HD version. And then you can use it for your publication, for your whatever, whatever you plan to do. At the moment, who owns it? That's a good question. Nobody owns it because it's generated by AI and it's unique. Nobody can claim copyright on this. All you have to do is just acknowledge in the book or in your publication, generated using Midjourney. That's it. That's the only terms and conditions so far. Because there's no limit, right? Because you don't even know who did it. Because there's no you don't even know who, because you can't be citing a robot, right? You can't be citing anyone. But I think in the future, once Midjourney, because this is still open and free, once they start to close it, they make it pro or whatever, then you have to acknowledge the Midjourney by paying and all that lah, by paying the royalty or whatnot. Right now it's still open, right? And mana my version tadi? You can do anything like interface. You can come in here and later on you just type Midjourney in Discord. There's so many people doing so many wonderful things, and even graphic designers, they do website and all that. But what I'm trying to tell you here is arts, creativity and all that becomes so superficial now. Like anyone can be creative, anyone can be. I have seen, like what Prof. Karim mentioned, I've seen a lot of people sold the books and they're earning quite a lot of money as well. This is like opportunists in a way lah, but we don't know how long it will be, like this. But let's see.
So it's a kind of Kiman, kind of double sword, or it cut both ways lah. It can be a threat.
Yep.
It can be an opportunity, right?
Correct. But I foresee once like now EU is doing the talking, EU is doing some regulation on this. I think they're going to allow this, but with certain limitation, of course. Just like how we use Canva templates and all that. If you read Canva's terms and condition, you can actually publish all the templates given for free. You can't publish the one with Pro because you're paying for the Pro version, right? And all the Pro Gamba stock photos too, because they owned by the person who owns it. You can't really print it out and sell. But I know people are doing it, but you cannot. But according to Canva's rule, any free template with your modification and all that, you are allowed to make money out of it. They are not restrictive in that sense. So I foresee the same thing will happen to these kind of tools in the future, right? Okay, for another threat, it will be inaccurate generated feedback. Okay, any languages other than English, you have to be more careful. Like contoh kalau yang mengajar bahasa Melayu, you have to be very careful. I tested a lot because I'm involved in the community partly because of bahasa Melayu. Because they need people for bahasa Melayu. And I can tell you it's very challenging because when you look at our neighbor in Indonesia, they are more advanced when it comes to this. I baru nak cakap, Dr. cakap bahasa Indonesia. Because they are more advanced because the data corpus is so huge. And one reason is also because we have an agency which is using its own corpus, close it at the moment. So I think for the future of the language, like the agency, which agency lah kan, the yang jaga kita punya BM tu, they need to probably open up the corpus, make it accessible by AI engine like this, so that they are not restrictive, because it's for the benefit of the language itself, including all this, indigenous languages, right? Bahasa sukuan that we have in Malaysia, for example. A lot of languages are dying off, and if we don't take this advantage, lagi lah kan, people are not going to use it. Like this one, you can see, I sengaja tanya dalam bahasa Melayu, saya letak adjective di depan kata nama. Dia kata boleh. Padahal ayat ni tak betul. Right? Besar rumah hijau. Kan? Sepatutnya rumah besar hijau ataupun rumah hijau besar. Right? Sepatutnya rumah hijau besar lah. But the explanation is wrong. This is also the problem with ChatGPT at the moment for GPT-3. In the field, we call it hallucination of intelligence. They will buat ayat tu seolah-olah dia pandai. Sebenarnya dia tak pandai. Dia ni memandai lah. Kalau bahasa mudahnya, it's like student menggoreng. Menggoreng. Same thing like what student are doing lah. You know, dia goreng. Nampak macam dia tahu, sebenarnya dia tak tahu. So that's the problem with ChatGPT at the moment. Dia punya conversational mode tu memang macam manusia lah in a way kan. Manusia pun macam tu juga. Kadang-kadang kita tak tahu. But we will try to pretend that we know. The previous version yang before the January, the one that you're using now is 30 Jan kan. The previous one yang baru-baru launch tu masa 2022 November. Kalau you tanya anything, dia tak akan admit dia tak tahu. The newer one, because saya pernah tanya dia, can you actually say that you don't know if you don't know anything? Dia kata no, dia generate pula. Blah 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 ayat. Tapi yang now, if you try to tanya apa yang tanya ni, can you say I don't know? Dia kata yeah, I have my own limitation blah blah. Dia akan mengaku yang dia tak pandai. Sebelum ni dia tak mengaku, right?
So dia learn to be humble now lah.
Dia learn to be humble selepas orang kutuk kot. I don't know, but that's how it will evolve lah. Okay. So another one is limitation in tadi tu ialah generate. So you have to be careful. Kalau you nak student to use this, you have to be careful lah. English is so far okay. In fact, English is the most extensive one lah. Cuma other languages like BM and all that, because of the limited corpus size, then you can't blame them lah, right? Limitation in output-based assessment. Yang ni yang I think I want to highlight as well when it comes to assessment. I think for so many years now, when it comes to language teaching and all that, we are like macam, how to put it, we are in the middle path of assessing writing or assessing ideas or assessing skill and all these kind of issue. We are actually not sure what are we assessing for. You know, like kita nak assess dia punya writing skill, adakah we will just rely on the output like this? So if we give a question like this, write an essay in 5 paragraphs about pro and cons of social media. Contohlah we bagi student, okay, balik buat essay, pro and cons of social media. Student can just type like this. Actually ada 5 lah, I cut off because panjang sangat in the slide, I just cut off. But I can get a whole complete essay by just writing the exact same instruction given by the teacher. So now it begs the question, are we assessing writing or are we just assessing something else? Are we just assessing the ability to generate ideas and all that? So language educators have to rethink. In fact, I think we have been talking about this for so many years. Kalau those in language, they will know all this communicative language teaching, which is not really output-based. It's the process-based. Not so much about getting the output alone. It's the process that they took from writing the topic sentence together, generating supporting details together, until giving, how do you give example, barulah kita structure in a genre format like macam all this paragraphing. That skill is lost actually because we just teach them to write something and then we mark, and then we akan kata dia ni pandai English, padahal we just based on one output which is not really accurate, to be honest, right? So these are some issue that probably will spur more discussion, right? Okay, kita pergi opportunity. I think just a quick one before we go for Q&A. Foster self-regulated language learning. I think Dr. Tazli dah mention tadi quite extensively about this. I use in a language context. Contoh lah, cikgu bagi novel, suruh you baca, you tak nak baca, you kata, yesterday I read, I tak baca pun, tapi I kata, yesterday I read Robinson Crusoe, but don't understand. You help me explain in 2 sentences can? Nampak tak my broken English ni? Nampak I cakap broken English ni? Tapi ChatGPT tak judge me. That's the good thing about AI. Dia never judgmental, never emotional. Kalau you bagi ayat macam ni dengan cikgu, apa ni? Say it properly, right? Kan, ataupun ask it properly, kan? Dan ni ChatGPT ada. Dia kata, sure, here's a brief explanation of the novel. The book tells the blah blah. Dia siap bagi dengan patientnya. Nampak tak? Lepas tu saya tanya, clever lah you. But what means deserted? Desert like Sahara. I sengaja buat broken English, by the way. I sengaja buat broken English just to see how it react. Dia siap jawab. Deserted can refer to a desert, blah 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 blah. In the context of the novel lagi ni, dia bagi konteks dalam Robinson Crusoe tu. So, kalaulah language learners yang want to learn the language, if they have this keen learning punya, behavior, ChatGPT can serve as a very good self-regulated learning punya macam mentor lah, macam buddy. Sebab kalau dia nak tanya cikgu, oi, cikgu pun rimas. Asyik-asyik soalan-soalan datang. Tu baru seorang. Imagine kalau ada, if you have like 50, 40 students coming to you asking all kind of question about the book, you pun jadi very frustrated. But that's the beauty of becoming teachers now. You are no longer entertaining all this factual feedback. You can tell them, okay, look, why don't you ask ChatGPT first? And then you come back to me tomorrow, you tell me about it, and then let's talk about it together. That's the human touch of being teacher these days. You inject the humanity part or the emotional part to that particular task. So all these superficial tasks of getting facts or getting answers, you can rely on AI. I mean, I'm saying this as an example lah, tapi tak semua student akan benefit from this because I agree with one of the professor, dia kata AI will benefit those intelligent students. The less intelligent one will suffer. You know why? Nampak tak all this thing requires a bit of competency. Dia bukan kata anyone can just come in and then do the prompt. Some of you yang tak pernah guna pun akan rasa risau because you don't know what to type actually. You don't know what to ask and all that. It still requires a bit of competency, and those who do not have the proficiency level will still have that fear of trying and all this. But it's just a matter of time when more students will have that confidence. And even that's why I sengaja test on broken English just to test how ChatGPT react to it. And in fact, you can try mixing, like I'm one showing you now. Oh yeah, later. The third one. The second one is motivational agent. This is beautiful. Imagine student want to practice interview. Normally, they will ask a friend. Imagine if the friend is busy ataupun there's a fear of talking to people. We have a lot of students having this problem now, right? Anxiety disorder lah, all kind of disorder. They are not able to, talk to people. So ChatGPT can serve as a replacement. And I mean not replacement lah. I mean like a help. Contoh, I want to practice job interview for my speaking test. Can you help? ChatGPT dengan bangganya berkata, yeah, I will happy to help you for a job interview. Please go and ask me any interview question. Dia suruh tanya. Tapi kalau dia tak tanya, dia kata, can you ask me one question? Dia pula tanya. Okay, dia jadi the interviewer. Sure. Here's a common interview question. Tell me about yourself. You pun jawab lah. Well, I'm a graduate from the field of IT. I'm self-driven, willing to work hard to learn new things. Contoh lah, very basic one. Then dia kata, great answer. Nampak tak motivator tu? Right, kalau you cakap dengan human, you kata ni tak cukup ni, right? It's a very lousy answer. Tapi that's the good thing about AI, non-judgmental, because dia tak ada emotional part. In fact, we don't want AI to have that element. Kalau ada, well, might as well don't have it because we have humans, right? Why do we need another AI that behave like us? We need AI that don't behave like us, right? Okay, great answer. That's a good introduction of yourself. Dia siap kata keep it up. Is there any specific area you're interested in? Dia trigger pula kita. Kita pun akan jadi, okay, I forgot to include that in my answer. So if you do this all the time, the student akan know better and better prepared for the thing. Ni baru text. Kalau student yang pandai, again, the AI will benefit the intelligent one. Dia akan copy the answer yang dah di-generate together with this ChatGPT, transfer it to text-to-speech synthesis. Right, dia akan step keluar dengan the pronunciation semua tu, yang so many tools now you have. They can practice pronunciation pula, how to pronounce the word, how to articulate the sentences and all that. So I think it's really, really helpful when it comes to language learning, to be honest. And you can even do multilingual contextual interaction. Now this is opportunity number 3, multilingual contextualized interaction, where at any point in time during the conversation or during the chat, you tak selesa dengan certain language, you can just switch, right? Like this one. Can you help me with my grammar? So you give this. Is this sentence correct? I sengaja lah ni, contoh kan. He were able blah blah blah. So can you fix this sentence? Dia kata, no, the sentence is not grammatically correct. Here's the corrected version. Dia siap correct the language. Lepas tu, dia kata, saya masih tidak faham. You imagine you are the student lah kan. Student kadang you dah tanya, lepas tu dia kata, saya tak faham lah. Kalau tanya dalam kelas BI memang kena lah kan. Cikgu akan kata, say it English. Kan, kena denda RM1 kot sebab cakap Melayu. Okay, tapi yang ni tak ada, dia tak judgmental. Okay, dia kata it's okay. ChatGPT sangat baik, betul lah dia ni. It's okay. Let me explain it in a simpler term. Dia kata the sentence dia kata okay, tak pandai baca paragraph, saya bagi point form dulu. Satu, dua. Kalau tak pandai lagi, dia lukis. Tak adalah. Takat ni belum lagi lukis. Kalau dia boleh lukis tu memang memang hebat lah. Okay, but it shows the progression of how you can switch from one language to another. Then you can even switch. Like ni, I start to mix, code mixing. I bagi Chinese and English together. The sentence means so past tense can only be used for completed sentence. Dia bagilah, that's correct. Oh, dia jawab. I thought dia tak jawab, dia jawab. For example, I blah, 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 blah. Then I tanya dia, then do you know Chinese? Dia kata, ya. Yeah. Dia tukar tu. Oh, tiba-tiba ChatGPT cakap Chinese lah pula. Okay, dia pun jawab lah dalam Chinese. Lepas tu saya tanya dalam bahasa Arab. What about Arabic? Dia jawab pula lah. Arabic dia ada salah sikit, I notice. Tapi okay lah, basically you understand. Tapi jawapan dia hampir sama. So imagine kalau pelajar yang multilingual, dia tak faham sesuatu, tak perlulah duk, kacau cikgu lagi. They don't need to disturb the teachers all the time sebab they can learn on their own. This is the beauty of this multilingual lingual contextualized interaction. For my student, because I'm teaching natural language processing in the course computational linguistics. We have one course computational linguistics in our faculty for linguistic students. I always ask them to analyze this and see how accurate it is and all that. And also, how can other, all these indigenous languages, macam bahasa Iban, Bidayo, even those in Dusun, how can we include that in this kind of conversation? Because for a language to be sustainable, you need to use it, kan? Or else, there's no purpose of learning all these languages kalau you cannot use it. Imagine kalau you can cakap Iban with ChatGPT, kan bagus. And you can practice it from time to time. You don't even need to talk to a person that, yang you jarang-jarang jumpa. Okay. Right, next. Immersive learning experience. I say immersive sebab you can use scenario-based learning ataupun macam konteks tadi lah. Very contextualized. Same thing like interview tadi. Yang ni I buat role play. Can you practice a role play on persuasive language with me? Let's say this student, next week dia ada assessment. Mungkin MUET kot. Dia tahu MUET is coming, right? The coming test is about persuasive language. And he or she needs help. Tak pandai sangat persuasive language. So dia pun cakap, okay, so I'll be happy to role play with you. So you can actually do role play with ChatGPT as well. Again, you can see it requires a bit of competency in generating the prompt. Kalau student yang tak pandai generating this kind of prompt, tak tahu that it's capable, then the student will not benefit from this lah. So it's our job as a teacher to teach them. You can actually ask student, okay, let's do this practice together with ChatGPT. Tomorrow we come to class, we practice. Nampak tak another layer of advantage here? Student can get ready dulu, lepas tu dia datang. Kita selalu complain kan, suruh student prepare dalam kelas, at home dia tak prepare. Nak prepare macam mana? Tanya abang marah. Tanya mak dengan abang, busy dengan cari rezeki. Kan? Dia nak belajar dengan siapa? Cari online nanti chat kat TikTok, benda lain pula keluar. Chat di Twitter, lagi political kan? Contoh. So might as well don't prepare anything. So now you have a better way of preparing the student. Then come to class, okay, let's do it naturally with human. I think I like this kind of advantage because student can prepare better. Tak ada lagi alasan lah kan? Tak ada lagi alasan yang saya tak ada kawan yang pandai BI kan, all that. And of course the issue now will be accessibility lah. Internet and all this. Yang tu issue lain. To affect all the tools, not just ChatGPT, right? Okay. Same thing here. Yang Dr. Tazi dah mention it, so I will not go deeper. Dr. Tazi dah tunjuk. It can assist you in material development lah, lesson planning semua tu. You nak prepare material and everything, you can just use ChatGPT to prepare for you. I use an example here. Provide a 150 words passage about climate change followed by 3 comprehension questions. Now, what I like is every time it generates kan, because as a language educator, I tend to analyze dia punya question. And you can see a progression. Kalau you tengok Bloom taxonomy tu, it's actually a progression of identifying main point and then up to inferring. Kalau dalam language teaching, reading, this is inferring. Kenapa? Nampak soalan 3 ni. How is melting of polar ice caps affecting the... So, dalam teknik dia tak cakap secara langsung. You have to infer. These changes are causing the polar ice cap to melt, sea level rise. Actually, this is the consequence of this one, kan? This sea level to rise is a consequence of polar ice caps to melt. But student who knows yang tak, the inference skill tu tak ada, dia tak akan jawab yang ni sebab dia akan kata yang ni is just an example, right, of climate change. Tapi kalau student yang pandai, kalau inference skill dia ada, dia akan kata okay, the sea level will rise. So number 3 is actually an inferencing skill. Kalau dalam reading punya item is one of the highest lah. I mean not highest, the middle one. So you can see a progression of the question. Dia bukan kata tanya soalan bodoh-bodoh just surface level. It can also generate some good questions. So I'm not asking you to take this on the surface level again. You still have to do some checking lah, just to check. Kalau you pun tak dapat jawab soalan ni, janganlah bagi kat student. Alright. Okay, mesti something wrong. Same thing like quiz. Kalau vocabulary quiz, if you have taught the student certain words dalam kelas, contoh you dah ajar the word tapi you nak test saja, then you can be specific. Buat create a vocabulary quiz for this word. Nah, so you ada 4 kata saja. You nak test student dia tahu ke tak beza, challenges, potential, features, pitfall. Contoh lah. You just want to test this. So you can actually be specific. So it will generate a vocabulary quiz based on these 4 words only. This is an example lah. I mean, of course, you can always generate more, but it's very helpful to do drills on certain vocabulary yang you dah ajar dalam kelas, ataupun you want to extend whatever is on the textbook or in the revision book, whatever book you have. Contoh soalan dia tak cukup, you want to drill further, you can ambil balik actually arahan dalam buku tu, then just put some more words and then it will generate more. So at least you have more ideas to for your material development. Okay.
Kiman.
Yeah.
Kiman, can I just ask on
Sure.
the MCQ just now?
Yeah.
Because I haven't tried this one.
Yeah.
You can ask ChatGPT to generate the MCQ. Can you ask also ChatGPT to provide feedback for each response?
Oh,
yang tu I haven't tried.
it
Meaning
can,
that if the student choose the answer, whether it's wrong or right, correct or incorrect, it will give feedback.
it can be done, but you have to do it one by one on your own. Maksudnya,
Yeah.
But kalau student yang ni, sebab yang ni from teacher's point of view, you just want to generate all the whole list kan. But from student point of view, you can actually generate one by one lah. One question first, and then let's say, why is A wrong? Then dia akan bagi tahu. But tapi itu student punya perspektif lah. Teacher kalau nak boleh, you just have to do it on your own first, and then you copy paste the feedback tu, put it in your LMS for example. Kan we have LMS juga. You can always copy the feedback. But what I notice is MCQ ni dia slow sikit. The more specific it is kan, it becomes slower sebab dia kena go through a lot of parameters kan. So kadang-kadang frustrating nak tunggu.
Kena fikir banyak.
Tapi yalah. That's why people say, you know, this tool will be benefiting the more intelligent one, sebab yang intelligent one ni dia lagi banyak idea kan. The more idea you have, lagi banyak dia generate. Tapi the not so intelligent one just will do the surface thing lah, ask the basic question. But anyhow, it's just a matter of time to move them up. It's a good way to help. This is an example of you want to create vocabulary note. Contoh kalau you ajar George Orwell's punya book 1984, you want to create a word list. So you can just say, can you provide a vocabulary notes for George Orwell punya book, but limit to 20 important words. So dia bagi ni 20 words yang ada dalam buku tu. So you can do a glossary, you can do whatever list you have in your teaching and learning. So this will be very helpful. Of course, you still have to check, because I noticed when I generate mine, some of the definitions are wrong. I mean, not really wrong. It's not contextualized. It's same meaning but not used correctly. So you still have to check. Okay. Yang ni, teachers kan selalu ada masalah nak buat dialog for speaking test ke, for listening test ke, macam-macam masalah. I always get this a lot because in MUET punya meeting all the time, masalah paling besar is to create text for listening and speaking kan. Sometimes you just need some idea lah. You know, you have that kind of thing, but you just need some idea. So you can do that. Create a dialogue involving Ali and Mei Ling talking about cyberbullying. The dialogue is about 100 words. Kalau you nak duration pun boleh. So you will generate. Ali, hey Mei Ling, have you heard about the recent of cyberbullying in our school? Then yes, I have. So you can get the idea already, kan? Automatically, text ni boleh kita guna ni for our listening test. You just have to, you know, act it out or use the synthesis again just to generate the text to speech punya tu lah. But it's really helpful. I also put here teacherbot.io. Those of you who do not want to use ChatGPT, you think that ChatGPT is a bit complicated because they're open-ended, you can go to teacherbot.io. Teacherbot.io uses the same engine, ChatGPT 3, tapi dia contextualized to teacher. So buat lesson plan, buat all this material, all that. Cuma dia narrow down to teacher punya use lah. So yang tu memang specialized use of GPT engine. Kalau ChatGPT ni kan open-ended kan, dia very open. So you can go to teacherbot.io to get the more ideas, because all teachers are there. So you nampak cikgu tu dia generate, you pun generate sama lah. You tukar-tukar. So you get more ideas on what to generate. This is for helping you to generate materials and all that. Okay. So just a recap, the threat, further decline in deep reading, radical shift from writing to generating. This is an issue not just for ChatGPT. Gratification of artificial creativity, inaccurate generated responses, limitation in output-based assessment. So I think we have to move away from this already. Gonna focus more on the process. That's why I think even writing, if you just based on writing alone, without any speaking component, for example, it will be very hard to measure students' punya competency. Just ask them to talk about something in 5 minutes. Then you will more or less know their language ability already. Then suddenly kalau dia produce a perfect essay, something is wrong, right? Maksudnya dia something is not right in terms of dia punya ability. So you have to go deeper in understanding dia punya competency level and all that. But so just have to go away from this lah. Same thing like why I was against the idea of using purely written assignment as your measurement. You have to do something else, macam activity based ke, like what Dr. Tazi has been doing for so many years on active learning. What something like that. Better than just depend on one written report and then you bagi markah based on that alone. I think it's a bit unfair, knowing that they will be able to generate the thing easily, right? Opportunities again, self-regulated language learning. I think number 1, number 2, I find it very, very useful. Motivational agent for learners. You also have multilingual contextual interaction. I think you can use multilingual punya prompts or responses. Then you have personalized immersive learning experience. Kalau dia pandai contextualize lah, this one teachers can actually help, and also assist teacher in the material development, and also formative assessments. But you can generate more ideas to do this assessment bit. Okay, so what's next? There's a concluding one. Okay, I sengaja letak ni because the greatest danger of artificial intelligence is that people conclude too early that they understand it. I find it quite interesting to note how everyone is saying that ChatGPT is the AI that will destroy everything. Actually, it's not. It's just like what Prof. Karim mentioned. It's just the tip of the iceberg. You have not seen what's coming from Google soon. You have not seen what Microsoft is going to do, not only with ChatGPT but with their own engine and Bing and all that. And then you have not seen what Apple is doing, right? It's just a matter of time. More AI or more AI-based material will be flourishing, and are we going to say that ChatGPT is the only one that we want to go against? There's so many things to go against, but why single out ChatGPT? My point is, kalau kita nak single out ChatGPT, we should just destroy internet altogether. Might as well don't need internet because there's so many tools out there. Why do we single out ChatGPT alone to be the one that we say, oh, ChatGPT is going to destroy the whole education system, even though we know that it has been happening for so many years. We just that maybe we are not ready for the changes. Okay, I think that's all from me. Thank you so much for listening. Let me just stop this one.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chua Kiman or Kiman.
Kiman,
And
just call
Dr.
it Chua.
Tazli. I think I'm speechless. Well, although I've been exploring ChatGPT, but during this session this morning, I've learned a lot more about ChatGPT. And the reason why I invite Kiman, Mr. Chua Kiman, and Dr. Tazli, because both of them have been exploring ChatGPT, and Kiman was earlier because you were there in the AI OpenAI community, so you know a lot more about ChatGPT. Well, I think what had been shared by Mr. Chua and also Dr. Tazli just now, just merely the tip of the iceberg. Just the tip of the iceberg. Mr. Chua actually dive in more on ChatGPT, the context of language and teaching and learning in general also. And Dr. Tazli just now started off basically to demonstrate hands-on, basically how to use ChatGPT as a virtual assistant, basically. So we are teachers or lecturers. We can use ChatGPT if we learn how to really optimize and leverage the power, learn the prompt, how to write, how to craft your question, your instruction. They call it prompt or prompt engineering. Then we can get the most out of ChatGPT. So Dr. Tazli mentioned about ChatGPT and demonstrated very briefly within a very short time how we can go deeper and deeper and get ChatGPT to come up with very detailed answers, ideas in a very little time. So we can challenge learners to think critically and to craft meaningful questions. That's probably one of the opportunities of how we can use ChatGPT. For teachers, for educators, we can save a lot of time to help us use ChatGPT to assist us to generate lesson plan, to give alternative, to compare, to pick the best, to give more context, to come up with a list of learning activities. We just choose which one that probably most relevant to our to our lesson, to our current lesson. Create a table, create a rubric. That's only the tip of the iceberg. So much more that we have yet to unleash from ChatGPT. And Mr. Chua Kiman has shown us in the context of language teaching, or teaching and learning in general, of 5 so-called threats that can be turned into opportunity. For example, threat number 1, further decline in deep reading. I think this is a very real concern because with ChatGPT can do a lot of things. People can simply develop a skill and ask to generate rather than to write. So that's another threat. But we have seen also there are a lot more opportunities. So with that, maybe we can look at before I pick questions from the audience, maybe I can just ask one big questions to both Dr. Tazli and Mr. Chua. Now, some people say that education may never be the same again with ChatGPT. So what's your take, Dr. Tazli or Kiman?
For me, it's not about, again, it's not only about ChatGPT lah, but it's actually AI. AI itself is actually a I would say another tool that has been developed extensively. But again, if let's say we do not know how to use it well, still it doesn't make any difference actually. Um, for example, right now, just now ada soalan, is ChatGPT a threat to higher order teacher skills? I don't think so. It's just a matter that AI is supposed to help our students to have a better thinking skill. Only then we can optimize and leverage fully on the use of it. The only issue is if let's say we're still stuck with typical and traditional ways of how we do the teaching and learning, for example, in our education, that will be a threat for us. For example, like if let's say we still keep macam Kiman cakap tadi, kita masih bagi lagi essay, for example, like essay kind of assessment, it may not be relevant anymore. If let's say we still defend that we still need individual examination and then we just change from online to face, just for the sake of doing assessment and examination so that we can give grade to the student, maybe that's not relevant anymore. We need to think better of how we can actually measure the right competency of our students. For example, like people have been saying about 21st century skills, creativity, communication skill, collaboration skill, problem solving, critical thinking, for example. These are, I think, very much important things that we need to assess and teach in our class rather than, giving individual kind of assessment, which AI can just do it. So that it helps us to rethink back, how can actually we assess our students? How can we actually give more meaning to our education right now? That's where actually AI came in, and AI came to help. But if let's say we still want to continue with the traditional way of how we do things, maybe AI, we would just see that AI is just a threat for us. So that's my takeaway from this lah.
Yeah. Kiman, what's your take on whether ChatGPT has changed the landscape of or how we do education in general forever?
Every
Change
now
for
and
good or
then.
change for bad?
Yeah, Prof. Thanks for the question. I mean, every now and then we get these kind of questions, right? I remember 2 years ago, I mean, maybe 3 years ago, and Prof. Kari and I were like doing all this. Remember YouTuber, remember
Yeah.
doing all this thing. People start to question, oh, this will revolutionize, this will transform our education. Tak perlu pergi kelas lagi. Everyone sit together and watch. I mean, every now and again we get this kind of excitement. Every time a new tool comes into the market or comes into the world punya scene, we start to question whether our education system needs some changes. But if you really look at our education system, or I mean whatever we have been doing now, not much changes were done apart from the mode, I would say. The assessment somehow remains more or less the same, I notice. Even though in thanks to the COVID-19, we kind of revolutionized a bit in terms of the assessment. Courses that used to be very exam based suddenly turn into more, immersive based, where you have more practical activities and all that, even though it's done differently in terms of virtual and all that. So I would say ChatGPT is just another that kind of moment. Wait until you see more coming, and then are we going to be in that same, mode again and say, oh, this is going to change the world again, this is going to change the education? But what Dr. Tazli mentioned was true. First thing to look at is, are we measuring the right competency? I think that's the challenge now. What are we measuring now? Even I was pondering on my own courses. When I look at the objective, when I look at what I'm trying to do, what do I want them to achieve actually in my class? Kalau I just want them to regurgitate whatever I taught them, contoh, what is the definition of this and that? Why do they need me in the first place, right? What is my role now? Maybe I'm more there to give them more on other practical side of the knowledge, rather than just flipping through the chapter by chapter of the modules and all that. Maybe something else has to be done from my part as well. So I think it allows us to rethink of what are we measuring actually. Contoh engineer, if a course requires you only to produce written reports, we definitely know that you're not going to be a good engineer, because all your assignment are just report. Report pun belum tentu you buat. Sebelum ChatGPT, you pay somebody to write for you. This is a trend now. In fact, before ChatGPT, the concern was actually on this plagiarism activity done through ghostwriters. Just go to Shopee, if you trust me, just go to Shopee, just search for do your homework. There's so many people offering this kind of service, and it's so cheap. You don't even need ChatGPT, because ChatGPT kena think lagi, kena fikir prompt kan. Baik, bayar orang buat. Alright, bayar orang buat, bayar 50 dah buat siap satu assignment. I mean, if we are still talking about this, if you are still talking about single out ChatGPT alone, it's going to be tricky. What we need to address is what I mentioned in my posting as well, is the ethical part from the beginning. We have to educate our generation that this is all wrong. A lot of them don't know it's wrong anyway, because some lecturers actually encourage this too. Sebab I have seen some lecturers yang complain about how bad the language was. Dia kata, ya, you bayar orang edit je. So when you are doing that as well, student will say, oh, tak apalah, lecturer ni okay je kalau kita bayar. So it's basically go back to the way we want education to be in the first place. Not just about the tools, but how we view all this, small things that we are doing in the class. Are we actually encouraging all this integrity kind of elements in our teaching and learning? Belum lagi, we talk about all the pressure to get good grades. Kan, when it comes to integrity ni, it's not just ChatGPT. There's so many issue about good grades and all that. Some lecturers actually give question earlier just to make sure that the student get good grades, because dia punya status dalam kursus tu terancam, for example, because if students are failing the course, they have to jawab. So all this issue actually is wholesome. It's not just AI, it's just the whole issue of looking back at what are we doing actually in higher education. From the integrity part, from our role as a educator, are we going to just go back to the same way that we have been doing before pandemic, for example? Go back to the way that we are just measuring, ambil test, jawab MCQ, that's it. We've been talking about VUCA environment, right? For the past 2 years, I saw VUCA here, VUCA there, tapi somehow assessment masih lagi MCQ. Sebab senang nak mark, that issue of we can't give personalized feedback and all that. So we know the kekangan KPI lain pula, so many issues of this and that. Eventually we go back to the old ways because it's more comfortable, it's easier to achieve. So it's good to relook at the whole ecosystem to begin with lah. Kalau nak persoalkan whether AI will change the education system, yes. But for the good or for the bad, really depends on the whole way of looking at it in the ecosystem. Kalau I can give an example in Stanford, for example, because they are the one who came up with all this. In fact, most of the earlier work by OpenAI were all these Stanford professors and all that. Even Meta AI punya head pun come from these universities. So this university, they are okay with this because they don't measure written assignment pun. Students are doing all these projects, how to develop AI for different needs and all that, rather than just write a written report. I mean, I'm using IT as an example. Of course, you cannot pukul rata lah, because in our country ni, we are still slower in that sense. So, tak tahulah, kalau nak bagi jawapan yang definite, I cannot really give one. But what I would say is it has triggered a good discussion on re-looking at our whole thing. And we have a good Excel framework juga kan. We have been talking about experiential learning and all that. Where are those now? This is the good time, because we have a very good framework in place where you are no longer base your assessment only on certain written output and all that. It's high time to look at all these activities lah, Prof. Okay.
Thank you, Kiman. Thank you, Dr. Tazli. I think it was excellent answers, excellent response from both of you. I just want to chip in a little bit, cannot help it, because I think ChatGPT for me is a godsend. It's a godsend. You see, we are in the 21st century. We have been talking about 21st century skills for so long, and yet, let's be honest about it. Before pandemic, nothing much has changed, and there are many prominent people, educators and non-educators, always say something negative about education in terms of education does not change as fast as other field like medical field, ICT and so on. It remained more or less the same. So until pandemic came, and suddenly everyone caught by surprise. And we thought, oh, okay, now after 2 years, we have changed for better. So when we came back for face-to-face, we hope we can improve our practice, our teaching and learning practices by adding value to our face-to-face classroom with a blended learning, hybrid, and whatnot. But as usual, people always set to the complacency very fast. They forget, we tend to forget very fast. And the good thing is now ChatGPT come in, and now we are facing with the same kind of shock again. How do we deal with ChatGPT? What are we going to do now? The students can do basically everything. Just throw any form of assignment, they can do it. So I think that's why I said ChatGPT is a godsend, because now we really need to think together and crack our head. To me, there's a great opportunity for those, especially educators in the area of research area on assessment and evaluation. They need to help us now. This opportunity for them to come together, crack their head, and come up with a book or something, how to transform your assessment in the era of artificial intelligence, rather than spending our time and energy to talk about how do we address plagiarism, how do we prevent students from use ChatGPT, and so on and so forth. I don't know. To me, is it worthwhile to spend our time fighting the fire all the time, and yet there is no end to it? There is no solution. People will find ways to go around. When you stop them or try to prevent them, they will try to find ways to go around it. So that's my take on that. Let's take a few questions. Maybe from Datuk Farhan first. Okay, Datuk Farhan kata, looks like we need to go back to face-to-face. Online learning will need to relook at the teaching and learning strategies. Online assessment will be a challenge. I just mentioned about that. So maybe Kiman or Tazli want to add something on that?
Iman, you want to share something first?
Yeah.
I think
So
when it comes,
basically, Dato Farhan kata,
yeah,
now
face to face.
we have to go back to face to face. So how do we now use or utilize whatever that we have learned from online in the face of ChatGPT?
I think in online learning, yeah, it's slightly greater challenge because of the mode itself, because we don't know what are they doing, like because you are not there. Um, to say that online learning has to revert to face, 100%, maybe it really depends on what kind of content that we are talking about. Because in certain areas, like in language courses, education, I think it's very hard to do fully online. I have to admit that, because even for speaking, it's very challenging, right? Because you don't know whether they are reading script, or you don't know whether they are looking at something else and all that. It's not that natural. But it also brings to the issue of what are we measuring again lah, back to that question. Do we need to be in front of them in order to assess the skill? If we don't need to be in front of them to know what we want to assess, then there's no point to be there. So regardless of the mode, we can still assess them. So again, like what Prof. Karim mentioned, a relook at the assessment bit. If we know what we are assessing, then it's easier for us to decide the mode, or like whether it's going to be online, going to be face to face, or it's going to be hybrid. Like certain skills very clear cut. Like for example, medicine, they are clear cut. They have to face because you need to see them doing things. For example, or even engineers, if you want them to operate certain machines and all that, it's clear cut that you have to be there. That's the best way lah, because you are there. To do it online, it can be done, but it will not be able to measure the competency that you want to measure. So again, by knowing what are you measuring, the kind of assessment that you are using, it will be easier for you to decide which mode will be easier. I mean, more, not to say easier, more appropriate to measure it. So it's very contextualized to every field. It's not really like one size fits all again. Mm. I know some courses say they are comfortable with online learning. They're fine. Like some courses that has no final exam, like in certain art and design faculty, the output is based on design and drawing. For example, student can just draw, take a whole time lapse video. They take a time lapse video of their drawing, the whole thing, and then submit the video. It's a proof of competency already, because they can actually see how this drawing was done without even using any other tool, for example. Because you don't need to be there. Kalau if you are there looking at them drawing pun berjam-jam pun tak habis juga. Image tu baru satu student, for example. So it really depends on what you measuring, right? Yeah. Back to Dr. Tazli kalau ada nak tambah.
Tapi kalau dia guna Mid Journey nanti drawing macam mana Kiman?
Itulah, I mean kalau lecturer tu kata jangan guna Mid Journey, you draw by hand, for example. So dia kena itulah. I mean really back to the skill lah kan. Kalau nak guna Mid Journey tu maybe measure benda lain.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So I was thinking more towards. I agree with Kiman lah. I mean, in terms of the assessment, we need to look. For example, like sometimes we have to ask again lah ourselves. For example, why do we give final exam? For example, should this course, does this final exam really measure the right attributes that we want from this particular course? For example, like I would actually incorporate. I would just, for example, give some kind of assignment, incorporating ChatGPT in it. If let's say if I am to do online assessment, for example, like okay, generate few articles from ChatGPT, for example, and then make some kind of comparison. What is missing there, for example. So that is actually when you start to give that kind of question, it's actually help the students to have a better, higher order thinking skills. And that's why I think Kiman highlighted earlier that ChatGPT or AI ni, it help the brilliant student to become more brilliant lah in a way. Tapi kalau students yang if let's say the students do not have the right thinking skills, they not be able to generate a deeper output actually. It will actually, you will be able to see, just to see that they will generate some nice text, nice written text, but it's flaw, like lots of flaw, lots of things are macam it's very generic. So you can really see that okay, this is something not worthy a good mark anyway. So I'm not worried actually about continuing with the online teaching and learning. Not all the things that we can translate into face to face, as I think Kiman said. But if let's say if we really want to conduct a face to face kind of session, we really make it a meaningful one lah. Because in the future, I believe that 2-3 years to come, this is my aspiration. I was thinking of hoping that there will be an AI who I can video call with. So something like I can talk to him and I just said, please prepare teaching slide for me. He can do it straight away. I think it will come. No, in just matters of time. Actually, it will be there. So by that time, if we are still the lecturer who are actually conducting chalk and talk style, we will be replaced. We can easily be replaced if let's say we just continue with that. But here we are when we are conducting teaching and learning session. This is where actually we are helping with the facilitation of the students. Even to the extent, I might say that in the future we might have a virtual facilitator. For example, like keep asking question to the students and so on. I think it would come there. So we as an educator, we just need to keep up with ourselves. This is why I say it's a blessing as well. Pandemic is a blessing. AI like ChatGPT is another blessing because it really push us to do better for our students.
Yeah.
It really change our role in the class itself. We have been talking about that since for the past 6-7 years back, that where actually university shouldn't be any like a gatekeeper anymore. We are the one who curate the content. We are the one who actually
Yeah.
facilitate the students inside the class and so on. Change the role, but this is a time that we really materialize it before we are being replaced. That's all I can say.
Great. I totally agree. As I said just now, it's a godsend. This ChatGPT is a godsend. It's a blessing really because we need something like this to really take us to another level. Otherwise, we'll be happy just to be comfortable and stay in our comfort zone or status quo. We don't want to change because there's no need for it, right? But now we realize, hey, we need to change now. We need to think differently. Think different. How do we do our assessment now? I think obviously one of the main areas of concern among teachers and educators is about the assessment part. That's very obvious. And we don't have all the answers now. It is evolving very fast. So what we need now is actually to learn from each other. How do we adopt and adapt ChatGPT in our assessment? And rather than looking at tools to detect AI generated content, for example, can we think differently? I don't have the answer now, but again, this provides us the opportunity to really be very creative in the way how we design our assessment. Of course, I'm just speaking very generally now because I don't have a specific answer because we have to contextualize it into a different subject matter. Assessment for language is different. Assessment for engineering, medical is different. We need the people from those different areas now to be creative and share their different way of doing assessment without having to worry about how ChatGPT now would, play a role. So that probably would address a question, for example, from Dr. Kimberly here. Our exam at USM is going to be held in a matter of days. A great proportion of our exam are conducted online, non-proctored, where exam scripts will be submitted. Given how well GPT can answer this question, how do we assess students objectively? We have no choice of redesigning the assessment modes. And most certainly, as lecturers, we don't want to end up marking AI-generated scripts. As I said just now, these are the real concern. How do we come up with a guide to provide some justification on the marking? There is, of course, the AI classifier, but it is still imperfect. So, from me, I think these are, again, the same issues about, our concern about how do we deal with AI? How do we deal with students using AI? Again, how do we moving forward? I think we need to look at this totally from different angles. Maybe we will have a different session, next session on AI, on ChatGPT, more on addressing this concern on the assessment. perhaps, yeah. Right. So, Dr. Tazli and Kiman, do you want to pick up any question or comment?
I think Datuk Farhan raised up hand. Mungkin dia nak, Datuk want to say something?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, Datuk,
Thank you.
silakan.
Sorry. I just wanted to say I think what's important is our prepare. This we know is going to be the disruptive technology that comes with technology, and we have to be prepared. And I agree that we should not be chasing our tail lah on this kan. Tapi to me, what's key is the attitude that we put in by both educators and learners. Because sad to say, many of us would like to have shortcuts. So I think ChatGPT can really help us to have that shortcut, which means the learning process will not happen. For example lah, tadi I cakap earlier, we will no longer think. Okay, now we have to think how to do our teaching plan. But with ChatGPT, you can ask ChatGPT to prepare our plan. So we are creating communities that do not think. Okay, so because the key is we want to be in our comfort zone, we want shortcuts, and we want output, but not the process of learning. I think that's very dangerous lah for future generation. So you are actually, I mean, all the 21st century skills require you to build your character, build your competency. Tapi kalau you don't have that attitude, benda ni semua akan jadi shortcut, and you do not realize that you have not built that competency until it's too late. Okay, so for example, student, when they go for their interview, only then they realize that they did not get enough training, or they did not go through enough training during university to get that competency that are going to attract employers, contohnya. For us lecturers, when you become professors, then only we realize that we have taken too much shortcuts, that we are not able to do things that are expected out of a professor. Ability to profess, ability to think, ability to come up with solution, blah 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 lah. So that to me is the danger. So the attitude of us has to be correct. And shortcut is our enemy. Okay, thank you. I thought I just wanted to say that lah, as because kalau tidak kan kita memang takkan ada solution. The speed of things developing memang we do, and the attitude. If we do not care about our teaching, which is happening in our universities now, we are putting teaching as a back burner, as a secondary thing. Who will think about this? Who will come up with answers? Maybe all of us. How many of us that are in this webinar are those who are concerned? But what about the rest? So I think this is again something that of course all of us have to think about it and champion it, and inshallah we will all have the right attitude to face this problem lah. Sorry lah, I thought I had
thank
to
you,
say
Dato'. That
something
was really
just to...
excellent point that you raised. In fact, actually, I wanted to mention this, just about to mention about this, because there's a lot of concern also over the over dependency on AI tools like ChatGPT and other AI tools. People say that it will kill creativity and make people lazy to think. You are right, Dato'. This is one of also element issue, because now because we can take a shortcut, so we actually skip the process, where actually when we go through the process, that's where the real learning can take place. So some may argue that relying too heavily on ChatGPT or other AI application may limit students' ability, or in fact, our creativity, our ability to develop, our own creativity and original creativity, critical thinking, and so on. I think that's a very good, excellent point that we need to ponder and think about. Okay, we have only about a few more minutes.
I may add something, Prof. From
Get on.
What Datuk highlighted just now. When we are obsessed with actually measuring the output, the outcome, and we do not care much about the process, that is where actually we will go through the shortcut.
That's
So
for PE.
yeah. So that's why right now we have to rethink of um what kind of measurement that we want to make. Is it measured towards the end or measuring the process that we're going through? There's, for example, like we as an educator, yes, right now I think even teachers, for example, they need to submit dia punya apa RPH, rancangan pengajaran harian. That's what they did right now, and then those they were measured by their RPH submitted, and some of them before the existing of AI, they just purchase the RPH and just copy and paste in their in the document. That's what happened before. And you know, right now, so instead of spending their money to purchase RPH, so they just ask AI if let's say they are still going through the shortcut. But again, when we are delivering inside the class, that is another process. And AI couldn't do that. When we are facilitating our students, when we are talking to our student, really teaching our students some skills, those are the things that cannot be done by AI. And it is a process, but it went unnoticed before. Actually, it was not being looked at, because everyone want to see towards the end whether the KPI has been achieved or not, what would be the satisfactory from the students, what is the actually again, it goes back to number of papers being published, number of things being, so this is the time that universities or schools and higher education institution to revise back whether are we actually putting the right KPI for the educators anyway, for the lecturers? Are we still obsessed with measuring the outcome towards the end when towards we just have some numbers on the papers? So
More on compliance, right, Dr. Tazli? We
yeah,
have been focusing too much on compliance rather than the real substance, right?
betul, betul.
Kalau tak comply nanti problem pula kan. Problem dengan SWA, problem dengan auditors and so on. Well, I may sound cynical here, but yeah, I think it's very true. Kiman want to add something here? We are running out of time. Maybe a few more minutes.
I think for now, as you know, because the discussion is quite fresh at the moment. ChatGPT was introduced November 2022, and this now is February only, couple of months, and we have been talking a lot about how it will disrupt education. What I would suggest for all universities to do, or maybe KPT can do this as a whole, is to really introduce a guideline on this, not just for ChatGPT, but for AI detection kind of tags or whatever. This is just to safeguard certain issues because, as far as we know, for now, this is what we're going to do for now. Because without having it on a guideline, we probably will face some legality issues where student will come back to us. Why are you giving me a D for giving that kind of output, because it's not even stated clearly that they cannot use it or they can use it and all that. So I think for all universities to have a certain guideline would be good. I think some universities have been doing it, but universities at least should have that element in, because our kind of regulation is still, old ways of doing things. We have not included new ways of doing cheating and all that, for example. But don't penalize it as a cheating or whatever. Just introduce it as part of the regulation in a way like for teaching and learning, this kind of tool can be used or what cannot be used, or to a certain extent. At least it's there in the guideline and all that. So it makes it easier for educators to make decision as well, because right now I think some questions are very clear on assessment, because if I notice the student cheated using other means, it's easy for me to penalize because I have ways to say that this student is cheating. But what if, AI generated text? I don't know what to do. If I penalize, then later the student come back to me and say, why are you giving me a D? For example, then I have to answer. So it's always good to have that kind of element, safety net for now. We don't know what's going to happen next, but at least there's a safety net for teachers and also for educators in general. And what I noticed as well, we are talking about all this, gun. Students are listening too. Students are paying attention too. Student knows that we are talking about this, and they know that we're going to find ways to detect. They're not that stupid, to be honest. They are not going to copy and paste blindly just for the sake of doing it. But of course, those with lower competency or those who are not interested in education at all, actually they will show this regardless of with or without ChatGPT. Actually, you can see the way they behave. They just simply copy and paste internet resources and all that. But to have it as a proper guideline and that would be good, and students are aware that we are aware as well, and they know, like, we know what you're doing and you know what we are talking about and all that. So at least we're in the same book. So you want to use it, it's fine. At least we're open with it. Then, I think it encourages more meaningful interaction between teachers and students as well. They know that we know, and at the same time, they also try to buffer. Because what I notice is we have a lot of tools out there. A lot of these students don't know how to use. You trust me, ask your class, do an end course survey. Not many of them actually know about ChatGPT. Some of them have never tried it at all because they just don't care. Because the intelligent one will go and use it, but some are just they don't care. I think thank you so much, Prof, for me to add just now.
Thank you, Kuman. Thank you, Dr. Tazli. Actually, we have come to the end, but
Yeah.
I can't help it just to ask one final questions. And this actually the words in the words of Kiman yesterday, Mr. Chua Kiman. I remember Kiman, you mentioned you coined the word, the future is no just enough.
Yeah.
No just enough. So can you elaborate a little bit about 1 minute
Because
or so?
one of my interests is because I'm also into social media and all that. What I notice is one is the decline of education, formal education. A lot of people do not want to go to school, do not want to go to universities, do not even want to go to polytechnic these days. If you notice, I don't know whether there's a statistic on this, but what I notice is there's a growing trend of younger generation do not want to take formal education, realizing that they don't need all those formal settings. They can learn on their own now. You can see people making a lot of money just by learning how to do something using YouTube, or even doing a little bit of research. Again, what I foresee the future would be like our profession is actually under threat, because I can see more universities are closing down because of course we don't have enough students right now. We still okay, because kind of like students are chasing that thing, but soon I think student will see like degree is not really needed anymore. I just have to know enough to use all these tools to make a living, to survive better. In fact, I could be better. I could venture into some fields that I don't even have in universities, like AI, this kind of thing. It was never taught to me in universities, but I learn as I progress. I don't need to have formal education anymore. I think that's the part where we are going to face in the future. Maybe not that soon in Malaysia, but if you are following all this conversation they are having on the social media, even on, especially on Twitter, because Twitter, this is like the elite group for the teenagers. Look at the way they talk. You realize that, oh no, we are going to have a generation where they just know enough to survive. We don't have critical thinkers, we don't have people who go deeper anymore. They just, yeah, as long as I can make a living, why bother? Kan, jual nasi lemak viral pun okay, kan? But why do I need a degree, for example? I mean, that's the trend now. You can see it's growing, right? It's growing. Okay, that's all from me.
Okay, Kiman. Excellent. No just enough. Gig economy. Okay, I think it's been a very, very fruitful discussion and knowledge sharing from both of our speakers, Dr. Mohamad Tazli, Azizan, and Mr. Chua Kiman. Again, it's just a tip of the iceberg, the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more. When we look at ChatGPT or AI application in general in the future, moving forward, I think we have it's no longer an option. AI, ChatGPT, and similar tools will be part and parcel of application or tools that, like it or not, probably we can integrate that as part of our so-called toolbox. I like to think in terms of toolbox, having a set of tools that we can use and develop the essential skill set. Let's talk about the skill set that we need now in the face of AI and other tools. How do we adopt them and adapt them intelligently, cleverly, as part of our lesson, teaching and learning? And then on the other side, how do we educate our students now to be more responsible, to be more ethical? We talk about integrity or disintegrity. We talk about honesty and dishonesty. This has been a so-called pain points to people in education, and we'll be talking about it day in, day out, and yet we have yet to get a very clear solution to this. There's no silver bullet for this. It's a long way. But I think we need to look at now the next level in the face of AI tools and so on. How do we evolve in terms of assessment now? There's a lot of opportunities here for those working on assessment, come up with books, whatever, workshop training and so on. Let's help our educators with the tools of AI, and let's help our students now to be more responsible learners, to use AI in the most responsible manner. So that's basically how I can summarize the whole session this morning. So thank you once again to Dr. Mohamad Tazli Azizan and also Mr. Chua for sharing your knowledge, your wisdom with all of us this morning, and to all the participants who stay on until the end on WebEx and also on YouTube. Please share the recording of this session to as many colleagues, educators as possible, because I think it's very useful for them. Some of them cannot attend because they have class and so on. Yeah, please share far and wide. Share on your social media. A lot of people need to hear from what we have discussed so far in this webinar. Inshallah, we will bring more session on ChatGPT, inshallah, by CDAE or by other institution, to talk more specifically maybe on assessment on and other aspect of AI related to education. So with that, I will pass over to Mr. Salwan maybe.
Yeah.
So thank you very
Thank you.
much, CDAE, for the invitation, for organizing this. So
Thank you,
Tuan
Prof.
Salwan. Yeah.
Yes, thank you to all the panel of experts. Thank you, Prof. Thank you to Dr. Tazli, and thank you to Mr. Chua for sharing your insights and perspective on the role of ChatGPT in education. So I think the ultimate thing is, the real challenge is to use ChatGPT in ways that support and enhance the role of educators, and to promote deep learning, as what been said by Mr. Chua just now, and also to promote critical thinking and ensure that technology is used in an ethical and equitable manner, inshallah. And one important consideration is how to befriend with ChatGPT, or in other words, how to build a relationship with it in a way that is productive and beneficial for both learners and also educators. And again, thank you so much, Prof. Thank you so much, Dr. Tazli, and thank you so much, Mr. Chua Kiman. Hope we can meet again in other webinar. And thank you to all participants who have attended this webinar. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam
Have a
warahmatullahi
nice day, everyone.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum.
You.
Ma'am, whoever in charge of the CPT, I think it's still